Hello and welcome to episode 311 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
I'm James Whittingham. This week, solar farms in Chile are having to hire guards to prevent panels from being stolen and sold on the black market. I say stop these solar rustlers by branding each panel like they do with cows.
That is a surprisingly good idea. China has donated 5,000 solar power systems to Cuba, who continues to experience widespread blackouts due to fossil fuel shortages. Now, for users of those systems, the only fuel shortage they'll need to worry about is a cloudy day.
The American EPA is blaming Asia for smog in Phoenix and Salt Lake City. I wrote a joke here, but Netflix edited it out. And Brian, you'd have to watch the news to get that one.
Yeah, I do not get it. Voters in Ohio have upheld a ban on solar and wind power. Why? Because the question on the ballot was confusing. The problem is that people in Ohio love clean energy, but they absolutely hate reading comprehension.
All that and more on this edition of the Clean Energy Show. And also on this week's show, the cost of coal alone could power the jurisdiction that Brian and I live in. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. But I thought there was a new way to support the show with crypto.
Yeah.
With Buy Me a Coffee, because we have a Buy Me a Coffee account.
Yeah.
No. It's not working. No, we are. It's not working in Canada for Canadian creators yet. So I'll have to find a different way for people to give us all their crypto.
Yeah, but in the meantime, they can give you dollars, right?
She didn't give me dollars. And someone did this morning. So thanks to Weldon for buying me 5 cups of coffee, which he says, hey, keep up the great show. Enjoy every episode. This should get you 1 cup of money poop coffee. I heard it's really good. Well, it's a lie to think that people actually drink the coffee and that they get bought. It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
How are you?
I'm good. I wanted to wrap up marathon chat. It seems like we keep talking about marathons, but I think this is the last time. So I just wanted to follow up on a few Olympic marathon things. First of all, I mentioned that somebody had won the marathon in bare feet.
Right.
And that statistic is always amazing every time I hear it. It was Abebe Bikila who won the Olympic marathon in 1960 in bare feet. Like,
really?
Not that long ago, 1960, won the marathon in bare feet.
That was because his shoes didn't fit, right? Like he was from an African country, he didn't have any extras, and the shoes that were there for him didn't fit, so he just said, screw it, I'm going barefoot, and he won.
And he won.
Which is legendary, because, this isn't a show about marathons.
No.
Unless you call the energy transition a marathon. But we got into it somehow, so we're following up on it.
Yeah, and then the last thing I wanted to mention, I always thought the rules about Olympic shoes were fascinating because they had to start taking it seriously a few years ago because the technology in running shoes had the possibility to give somebody an unfair advantage. I mean, think about it. You could have like those, Wile E. Coyote rocket shoes or something.
Sure.
But anyway, so they do have specific rules now for shoes in the Olympic marathon. They can have a maximum sole thickness of 40 millimeters and have no more than 1 rigid plate, which is usually carbon fiber. And furthermore, the shoes must be publicly available on the retail market for at least 4 months before use, prohibiting prototypes or customized elite-only shoes. They have to wear shoes that you can buy in a store.
Wow. So if you're an elite marathon runner, you're like, hey, I heard there's a new shoe. We got to go get it. It's $500. That's what the Adidas shoe cost.
Yeah.
So it would be an expensive sport if you're keeping to try things out and see if they work with you. We were just talking before the show about bird flu killing a cat where we lived in our city.
Yeah.
And I was going to mention that because last week we found a dead duck just off our property, like on my neighbor's lawn.
Yeah.
I could hear him screaming. He's deaf, so he doesn't realize how much noise he makes, when he screams. I heard him find it and scream. He had I thought, later after he removed it, that might be hazardous. You don't want to get bird flu from a dead bird. Now, we don't know that it was there's not ducks around here. There's no ponds, but his mate or her mate is flying around my neighborhood for the last 3 weeks trying to find their mate.
Wow.
I assume. So they're around and somehow that duck is dead. And he's got cats, but they're indoor cats. He does walk them on a leash from time to time. So I don't know. I thought that was weird that that there was a duck and it was, kind of freaky and morbid.
Yeah, and a cat locally died from avian flu, so it's made the jump to cats and, probably won't make the jump to humans, but hey, this is how pandemics start.
Says the guy with a horrible cough this morning. Okay.
Yeah.
We talked about Nikola Motors. They were trying to make hydrogen long-form trucking, and we thought there was a great idea, and they were cool. They're going to make an electric version. And then we found out that they were BSing everyone, and Trevor Milton was the guy who ran that company. Well, he went to jail for fraud because they rolled the truck down a hill and made a video showing the truck, but it was not functioning. It was just rolling on gravity.
No, and the company got up to a valuation of, I think, $50 or $60 billion, sort of based on all of this hype.
Maybe it's our fault. Maybe we were too excited about it. Anyway, went to jail, and now he's out because the President of the United States, who will remain unnamed, gave him a pardon. So, yeah, he defrauded others and enriched himself to the tune of billions, and he was convicted, but he bought his way out, as many people do. All you got to do is build a golden statue on a golf course or something, and you get out of jail. And something I wouldn't be able to do, but maybe I could, learn how to make my own statues if I had to. So, there was a lot of stories in the news where Brian and I live in Saskatchewan, Canada, about the province here wanting to extend their coal use until 2050, which is absurd and stupid, and everyone knows that. Canada as a whole was supposed to ban coal by 2030. It was supposed to get rid of it and wind it down. Yeah. And we are one of the jurisdictions that has said, no, we can't do it. It's impossible. What are renewables? We don't know what those are. We have very few renewables here. And I astounded you last week by saying that the fuel costs were $300 million per year for our small province of 1.2 million people for coal, which is like 35% of the grid nowadays on average.
Yeah, just for the fuel costs, $300 million
just for the lumps of coal, Brian. The lumps of coal was $300 million. Well, they came out and said, no, that's not true. Well, the opposition party here hired, professionals to do a study on it.
Yeah.
And then that study said it was $520 million per year just for the coal.
Right.
Just for the coal. $500 million just for 30% of the small jurisdictions. And it seems absurd. Like, why would you do that? Because you know what? Coal does not get cheaper. Renewables get cheaper. There's no question about that. Coal does not get cheaper. It actually goes up like 5% a year, usually. So it's not going down.
Well, their excuse is that they're waiting for nuclear. That's what they want is nuclear. But of course, nuclear takes a long time to build. We're at least 10 years away from that. So their excuse is, we're just going to keep the coal running because we can only have nuclear. That's the only way forward.
Right. And the premier here is really gung-ho about using our own uranium because we have uranium here way up north.
Yes.
On the opposite end of the province, hours and hours away. If you could drive there and you can't, you have to fly there. So, but it's us who's paying for that uranium. It's us for paying for the plant to do that, which is a very expensive option for our jurisdiction. And they're talking about, small modular and large modular, large normal nuclear, regular size nuclear of, gigawatt or 1.2 gigawatts of output. So we'll see about that. And there's transmission lines. And the union for the electrical workers came out and complained to the opposition. And when that happens, I smell a rat.
Yeah.
A hantavirus infected rat, because it doesn't make any sense for them to do that. They probably want their coal jobs and it just seems weird that they would come out and criticize the opposition party for doing that, because the opposition party didn't come up with the figures themselves. They hired, a consulting firm who knows this stuff to do that. And the big complaint was that the transmission grid has to be upgraded whether we use coal or anything else, and that wasn't affected. But I'm still astounded by this $520 million year. And I asked AI, because what else am I going to do? I can't do math. AI said that $520 million of just the coal, not the upgrades, we're spending millions of dollars, billions of dollars to upgrade them, would build 400 megawatts of solar and 4 hours of battery storage where we live. Because it's different everywhere.
Yeah.
Depending on how much sunlight you have. We have good solar resources, but it's seasonal. Okay. So 4 hours of storage stretches that sunlight basically almost around the clock under good circumstances, because you use less power at night than you do in the daytime. So as long as you get into the evening, 4 hours of storage is quite a bit. Okay, so if that were true, then 400 megawatts of solar plus 4 hours of battery storage to store that solar and distribute it when the sun ain't shining, that would take, 25 years of this extended coal plant. That would power 2/3 of our grid just with solar and batteries alone, with that money of just the coal, just the power for the coal. Okay. Now, in the summertime, you get more advantages because you turn off your gas plants. You turn them off. You don't pay for the gas, the natural gas, to make electricity that way because we've got lots of generation that way. So when the sun is shining, you save money that way. That's one of those things. But 2/3 of the grid, that's right now, Brian. 2050, the way batteries are falling and getting better and solar panels are still coming down in price, I think it could power the whole province. Now, you wouldn't want to do that, and I'm not suggesting you do that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying theoretically, the amount we pay just for the lumps of coal could power our whole stinking province by 2050, gradually building it up, and you're paying for some of that at 2050 and not today, the whole thing. But what you would do is you would build lots of wind and lots of other kinds of storage. Perhaps you use hydro and intertransmission lines to other places to share electricity so that you don't have to build as much solar. Since we're so seasonal here, our days get very short and cloudy in the wintertime and are very good in the summertime. We would be a prime candidate, I think, for hydrogen, to produce hydrogen through electrolysis and use that as a seasonal generational storage. The problem is that technology isn't very mature. However, it's going on in several places of the world. China is doing it in cold places too. We get cold here in the winter and warm in the summer. You know, it's just, we're at a stage now where you can't say definitively, well, it's a no-brainer to get hydrogen storage.
Yeah.
And that would be the way to do it, build up a whole bunch of solar. But, you know, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that, but it seems preposterous. And we have so many problems in the world from one guy running a place. And they're usually guys. And they're doing a terrible job. They're stupid. They don't know things. They're blocked off from the world. They have ideology about, you know, it's going to be great to buy your own uranium. Uranium's a small cost of nuclear. Even the most ardent nuclear supporters know that. That's one of the great things about it, is that it doesn't cost a lot for fuel. It's the whole building the thing and securing it over and maintaining it over decades that is the cost.
And as we know, the fuel costs for solar and wind are zero.
Zero. Have yet to get a bill for the solar coming in off my rooftop. And yeah, we were talking about that. The Patreon bonus episode dropped last week, and I'm blurring it with our other regular episode. I can't remember which is which, but we were talking about the transmission of viruses on planes, and you said,
yes,
James, there's another reason. And it's not just because you're close quarters, and that reason is because of low humidity. The humidity is only 10 to 20% on a plane, so your mucous membranes dry up.
Yeah.
And that is a protective thing from virus transmission, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
I would just squirt my nose with I wonder if you can. I wonder if there's a product that you could just squirt in your nose and just keep it wet and mucousy.
Put a couple little sponges up there or something filled with water. But yeah, I've got a cold right now. I'm at the tail end of it. And my partner got it on an airplane, and we all know that it's fairly common to catch a cold on an airplane. And yeah, it isn't just the close quarters with everybody. That very, very low humidity in the airplane cabin apparently contributes quite a lot. And I'm not sure why the humidity is so low on an airplane, but apparently it is. Okay, here from Canary Media, voters in Ohio have upheld a ban on solar and wind, but it appears to be a confusing ballot problem. The exit polling suggests that people were against this ban.
And they didn't know how to vote. They voted the wrong way because it was confusing. I hate when they do that. I hate that.
Yeah. So it was Bill 52. Bill 52 states that for any referendum against a county's ban, its commissioner's resolution needs a majority to vote in favor to go into effect. So a yes vote means someone opposes the referendum effort to overturn the ban, while a no vote means the person backs the campaign to get rid of the ban. It's very confusing. It's a double negative. It's just boring. Like, I read the ballot and it's a couple of paragraphs and my eyes were glazing over by the end of it. And I can imagine frustrated voters in the booth I want this to end. I just picked something I wanted to end. It's very unfortunate. And it's just weird to begin with, because this is a ban in certain areas of Ohio, and it's a ban for private land. Like, this is telling farmers what they can put on their own land. And so the fight is probably going to continue, because that's pretty ridiculous to tell a farmer that he can't put solar panels or wind turbines on his own private land if he wants to.
Yeah, but if he wants to grow canola, or if he wants to grow biofuels for fuels, which is not food.
No restrictions on that.
But if it comes, and then it gives you less miles of transport than solar would in an electric vehicle, but by far less, like a tiny fraction less.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating when that happens. And it's another example of bad politics screwing up the world. It makes me angry. Brian, I forgot to mention this. I saw this laying on my desk here.
Yeah.
This is a public safety information. I talk about this from time to time. I get these in the mail, dropped off. This is from Enbridge, one of the world's largest pipeline people. There's a pipeline behind my house. I thought I would open it live on the air.
Oh, sure.
See what's inside. I have no idea what's inside. And
what if it says run for your life?
Then it's probably too late because I got it a few days ago. All right. It says important contact information. If you notice any suspicious activity or abnormal odor, call 911 and our emergency number, which is very long to dial. And okay, they have a nice picture of pipelines going through neighborhoods on a beautiful summer morning. Pipeline safety and emergency information for your family, neighborhood, and community. You have received this brochure because you are highly at risk. No, it doesn't say that. You live, work, farm, or near a property vicinity of liquid pipelines, such as crude oil and associated byproducts or related facilities. What's inside? Critical safety information, safe digging guidelines, row and agriculture activities, crossing or traversing the row, and above-ground activities. Yeah. Basically, don't dig, don't plant a tree, don't do anything near a damn pipeline, or you'll put us all in danger.
Yeah.
So this is why I got my house kind of cheap. And, it turns out that there's lots of pollution here. So there they are. Pictures of pipelines underground, happy people living beside them, lots of trees, and lots of oil tanks. Yeah, well, screw that. I get these all the time.
Yeah.
All the time in the mail. Sometimes a guy comes and talks to you because you live near a pipeline.
Wow.
Why did they build it right near a neighborhood? I don't know. All right, let's talk about Chile. Chile's massive solar boom is creating an unexpected side effect. Organized crime is now targeting solar farms, which is sad. Because people sometimes in bad areas of North America will cut off the cables of EV chargers for the copper.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of copper inside. It doesn't stop them from cutting it off and trying. And they have to come up with strategies for that now. So, I think they're pretty good strategies that they're coming, but everybody needs to adopt them. Criminal gangs are stealing solar panels, copper cables, batteries, fencing, and electronic control systems from remote installations in the Atacama Desert in Chile. Some raids are highly coordinated, with thieves arriving in multiple pickup trucks, disabling cameras, cutting fences, and escaping in under an hour. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There should be a heist movie, the solar heist movie.
This sounds like an amazing solar heist movie.
I guess the fact that these are in remote areas doesn't help. Workers say the criminals clearly understand how solar infrastructure works and know exactly which components are most valuable. Chile's solar capacity exploded from just 3% of installed electricity generation in 2015 to roughly one-third of the grid today. And industry experts say the rapid build-out combined with remote desert locations has made many sites difficult to secure. Copper theft is the biggest issue, making up nearly 86% of reported incidents, and solar panels, that happens around here with power substations and stuff all the time. Solar panels account for more than half of theft cases. My cousin has taken over my uncle's farm, which has oil on it, couple of hours, kind of down by your cottage, actually.
Yeah.
One of the towns around that area. And every time he leaves, they have this nice trailer that he lives in because the farmhouse is dilapidated.
Yeah.
Gets broken into and rampaged.
Wow.
He even wrecked the toilet, they said. And he said there's so much money in oil that the people are on the rigs, as they say, are buying cocaine. They're buying drugs and other meth and things, and they're going crazy.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a problem around here and something that's not always talked about in the open sunlight. So some solar farms in Chile have one or two unarmed guards protecting the massive solar sites overnight. Can you imagine armed guards to protect your solar? That seems fraught. I mean, they had this problem in Africa when we talked about powering a hospital, a neonatal unit. People were stealing the panels, but they put up fencing, I guess. That was enough to deter them. There weren't quite the controlled operations with the heist aspect of it. Some operators in Chile are switching from copper wiring to cheaper aluminum to make theft less attractive. I didn't even know that was an option.
Yeah, me either.
You should ask your son about that, the electrician.
Sure.
I don't know about that. I didn't know that was even an option.
Yeah.
Industry groups warn that this problem could spread globally as solar panel power expands worldwide. Yeah, and I worry about that because you can't really steal a wind turbine, but you can steal solar pretty easily. Experts say renewable energy security may become just as important as renewable energy production itself. So
Yeah,
that's sad in a way.
I guess given the massive deployment of solar, with literally millions and millions of panels around, there's going to be too many solar panels to steal. I mean, how many could they possibly steal compared to how many millions are installed?
And there's a black market for it. Like who's buying them? I guess they're putting them on roofs. So if you were in Pakistan, if they say Pakistan, everybody wants solar on the roof in Pakistan and rural India and Nairobi and places like that, maybe you sell them to people. There's a ready buyer for them. But, in Pakistan, there isn't really state-owned solar farms. But I thought that was interesting. We'll keep an eye on that.
From Power Magazine, China has donated 5,000 solar systems to Cuba to assist them in their energy crisis. We know there's been widespread blackouts in Cuba. They're having difficulty getting the fossil fuels that they need. So China has donated 5,000 solar systems, and these are quite small. They're
stolen from Chile, perhaps?
Perhaps, yes. But instead of doing one big deployment, they've decided to do thousands of small ones. So the first 2,600 systems are in vital centers in every municipality, and the remainder installed in isolated homes, including some that have never had access to electricity. And some of those remote places, maybe they do have electricity, but it runs off a generator, and they're having difficulty getting fuel. So everybody's having difficulty getting fuel. So among the institutions benefiting from this are maternity homes, nursing homes, senior centers, emergency rooms, funeral homes, and bank branches. People have not been able to do their banking because there's too many blackouts. And
yeah, that's got to screw up the economy just right there.
Yeah, banking is electronic. The goal is not total self-sufficiency, but rather ensure that there is energy survival during the critical times. Installing a 2-kilowatt system in a vital municipal center is the perfect tool to protect what is essential, what is truly needed to achieve autonomy for that municipality. So, yeah, these are not connected to the grid. These are separate systems because, the grid always going off like that. It seemed better for them to just be isolated from the grid and turn them on when they're needed. So it enables things to keep going on like vaccinations, care for seniors, operation of banks. And so another 2,300 systems are going to go into these remote places where people either don't have power or they're running off of diesel, but they can't get the diesel because there's just a big shortage everywhere in China. So these are 2-kilowatt systems, but 5,000 of them spread across the country. And then there's another province of Cuba where there's a project donated by Canada. So this is another 500 of these 2-kilowatt solar systems for isolated areas in this one particular province, and those ones coming from Canada.
Well, that's good news. I hope that this takes off. That we talked about this before. Like sometimes solar can just do wonders for people. It can change their lives, and in this case, maybe a whole country's economy. To save it from collapsing.
They may find they don't want to be connected to a grid at a certain point as these isolated systems improve and get bigger and maybe have battery storage. They may not even need to be connected to the grid.
Well, I wonder what the hotel industry, I know they're suffering horribly now because the planes can't fly there because there's no fuel to refuel the planes and return home because of some of the embargoes that are going on against Cuba from Venezuela. Trump has got Venezuela not to send their oil there, so it's been a big problem. Tourism is one of their biggest things, but I was wondering about the hotels. Maybe, do they already have solar? I've never been to Cuba, and I wonder if the hotels are powered by renewables just to keep them going.
Well, I would imagine they have backup diesel generators. Like that was probably what they've been installing. But, solar would likely be the next thing for sure.
Well, when you're sunning yourself on the deck or you don't want to smell diesel fumes, diesel is horrible. Diesel's the new smoking. It's unacceptable. I shouldn't have to breathe it driving down the street, and it happens to me all the time. You have to know where the recycle the air thing is in your car around here because so many diesel pickup trucks are cruising around.
Yes, I'm hitting that all the time on my car whenever there's, it's often like, an old car from 1970 or something driving down the street and just spewing horrible, horrible pollution.
Well, I'm finding it's pickup trucks, and even modern pickup trucks. Some of them are old and rusty. Some of them are just, they got big mufflers on them that are just gross. But anyway, I would like to see cars sort of have an automatic setting to detect VOCs from diesel, and just kind of, there's the next thing. There's the next frontier for technology in cars. There's more they can do, I think. The EPA is blaming Asia for smog in Phoenix and Salt Lake City. That's the Environmental Protection Agency that I believe Richard Nixon started around 1970.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And it was to protect people from industry. And believe me, as a man who's suffering from it, we need that. And of course, the current administration has really weakened it, and it's put a bunch of, drunk people in there running the place. The administration says the cities shouldn't be penalized for unhealthy air because pollution can blow in from abroad. Some experts say that is preposterous. That's because it is. The experts are correct.
So, of course, we did talk about on the show, Canadian wildfire smoke has spread, technically, all the way to Europe. So, it does travel, but not in any meaningful amounts, typically.
No, and not to Phoenix and Salt Lake City. Yeah, the Trump administration says cities like Phoenix and Salt Lake City shouldn't face tougher smog regulations because pollution is blowing in from Asia and Mexico. So blame people with brown skin. That's what they always do. They blame foreigners or people who are the other to them. The Fox News types are always going on about stuff like this. The United States Environmental Protection Agency accepted that argument for both regions, potentially letting them avoid stricter emissions rules. This is the problem. They say you don't have to protect your own emissions. So it gets worse. So even if it was from Asia, which it is not,
that's true,
then it's going to get worse because we're going to say, well, it's already bad because of Asia, but you shouldn't be having to not pollute. And then the air gets worse. So good luck to you. Officials say ozone pollution can travel thousands of miles through atmospheric currents and cross-border winds. But Arizona researchers estimated overseas pollution adds about 15 parts per billion of ozone, pushing Phoenix above the federal limit. And local governments argue that they've already cut emissions significantly, but ozone levels still aren't improving. You know what you can do? What we mentioned before in the show?
Yeah.
Electric lawnmowers.
Yeah.
It actually makes a big difference, especially in a city like that has a basin like that is sort of like a bowl, like those two cities. Yeah. Health experts warned that ozone increases asthma, lung disease, heart problems, and long-term lung damage. But that's okay, because the industry should keep on polluting. And industry groups support the move, saying tougher rules could threaten AI and manufacturing and data center growth in the region. And money. Money is evil.
Yeah.
It's going to kill all of us. Maybe even the rich people one of these days.
Yeah. All right. This is from Renew Economy. I like giving updates on the color of wind turbine blades. Birds do sometimes collide with wind turbine blades, so we've talked on the show a few times about different strategies for this. So Vestas, they're the Danish wind turbine manufacturer. They've decided to go with one red turbine blade and then two white ones. It's still a study. They're still doing this as a test. They're doing it on about 7 offshore wind turbines. And red was chosen as the color for the turbine blades after other colors such as black and fluorescent were ruled out due to various performance criteria, including the risk of overheating and its potential impacts on blade durability.
Because we talked about putting one black turbine on a blade.
Yeah.
But of course, that would heat up from the sun more and make it structurally less stable if it's heating up.
Yeah. So, they've decided on red. I mean, I think red would, I guess, reject enough that it wouldn't be a heat problem.
Okay. That's a very interesting story.
Yeah.
The link is in your show notes if you want to read more. We're going to get to some listener mail here. This is from Alex on Patreon. He says, hello, gents. Thanks for yet another great show. Very interesting point about nitrous oxide as a greenhouse gas. This is another diversion. Well, we had, laughing gas is a greenhouse gas that is used in dentistry, right? And anesthesia.
Yeah. And Yeah, and we had a story about a doctor in Australia who's trying to make his hospital more clean and more green. And so, nitrous oxide is one of the issues because it is a potent greenhouse gas.
Well, Alex writes, fun fact about N2O, in contrast to helium, nitrous oxide causes your voice to drop in pitch, assuming you can get more than a couple of words out before you lose your train of thought in hysterical laughter. Thanks for that note, Alex. And
yeah,
that would be weird.
I had not heard that. I did not know that.
Well, we learn from our listeners all the time, Brian.
All right. If you want to contact us, cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. You can leave a voicemail, speakpipe.com/cleanenergyshow. We are an independent podcast. We're supported by you. And we've got a link to the Patreon page in your show notes. Coming up next, it's the lightning round.
It's time for the lightning round.
The lightning round is a fast-paced look at the latest headlines in climate, clean energy, and transportation.
A study from China shows rooftop PV systems on dairy barns can significantly reduce roof heat, flux, and improve indoor thermal conditions for them cows. Field measurements and simulations found up to a 2.3 degrees Celsius reduction in indoor temperature during peak afternoon stress periods for that poor cow who's overheating in the dairy barn. But yeah, picture of a whole bunch of solar you can put over a dairy barn, and sometimes it's a missed opportunity. If you're building a new dairy barn, people, throw some solar, make it so it can throw some solar on the roof, and it'll power your small business, your farm. Last year in an Alaskan fjord, a surprise landslide triggered a tsunami of 1,578 feet tall, Brian. That's taller than all but 13 of the world's tallest buildings.
Wow.
From a little fjord in Alaska that had a major landslide, and I would not want to be there for that.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about that.
Can you imagine a tsunami that tall? It would be end of world horrific. Of course, it'd be the last thing you'd see. It's time for a CS Fast Fact. Heat pump tumble dryers use 50 to 60% less electricity than conventional dryers and are 5 to 7 times cheaper to run. How about that? It's worth it. Do you know they're coming down in price, so it's worth it.
Yeah.
Especially in the UK. There's now more than 40,000 NACS DC fast charge ports in the United States. That's the kind that Tesla invented, but everybody else is now able to adopt because it is smaller and more elegant and easier to use. 40,000 now. Quite a few.
Yeah, that's great.
The U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve released last week more than 1.22 million barrels a day, or 8.6 million barrels for the week. That's because of the Iran conflict, or their war on Iran. And that's the largest ever weekly release. Ever. They had to get that to keep the gas prices down, which are already cheaper than the rest of the world. Even at the worst of times, searches for used electric vehicles have doubled in the past 3 months in Canada. Insurance quotes for electric vehicles up 40%. So people are thinking electric because gas prices went up. BYD launches the 2026 Seagull, bringing LiDAR to micro EVs. This is a tiny little hatchback the size of a Chevy Spark if you're in North America. There's lots of vehicles that size in Europe, but in North America it's very rare and they don't even make them anymore. Although I did see they were making a Chevy Spark EV of an SUV variant for South America. Okay. And it's not, I don't know, it's hard to tell because it looks, proportionately, it's hard to tell how big it is, but it looks like an SUV.
Yeah, and I think you can get the Fiat 500 electric in Canada, and that's quite a small car. It's a low price, but very small.
Yeah, that's one of the comparisons is the Fiat. And yeah, those are cool cars. My daughter said she wanted to buy one day. That's before even knowing there was a... Yeah, I haven't seen an electric one where we are yet, but one day. Amsterdam is the world's first capital city to ban public advertisements for both meat and fossil fuel products. So you can't advertise meat. That is very interesting to me.
Wow.
Because meat, of course, is not climate friendly, especially red meat.
Yeah.
Since May 1st, adverts for burgers, petrol cars, and airlines have been stripped from billboards, tram shelters, and metro stations. That is quite a stand when you do. I don't think anyone's complaining. Well, I want to see my meat ads.
Yeah. And you can still keep eating your meat.
Sure.
It's just, you're not going to see advertisements for it.
Meta, that is the parent company of Facebook, is planning a data center behemoth in Louisiana the size of Manhattan that will take 10 new natural gas plants to power. Yay for Meta!
Yeah, that's too much gas. Get some solar.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell they're doing. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to use Meta AI. I don't use Meta anyway. It's unethical. Unethical company. A freight analyst says that GLP-1s like Ozempic are removing 1 million truckloads of deliveries per year already. Why is that, you ask, Brian? That's because
why is that?
people are eating less junk food.
Wow.
So there's 1 million less truckloads of junk food going across the country because people don't crave it anymore because everybody's on Ozempic or something similar. PepsiCo just closed 2 Frito-Lay plants. Those are potato chip plants if you're outside of North America. 431 workers in California and 454 in Florida were laid off. Campbell's company shut its chip factory in Massachusetts. Smucker took a nearly $1 billion loss on Twinkies. They're still making Twinkies. If you're eating Twinkies, stop. Stop and go on Ozempic right now. It's not a good idea. I've had some food problems in my life. I've never had a Twinkie problem. I haven't gone that low.
I kind of like the Half Moon, which is sort of like the Canadian version. It's like the Canadian Twinkie. It's called a Half Moon. I think they're from Quebec.
Oh,
I always kind of like those.
I've had those, but I have my limits, Brian. Hershey's confectionery volumes fell 5% in a single quarter. So sell your junk food stocks now. I mean, if you haven't already, if you own junk food stocks, this is a serious thing. And in Canada, we're getting generic versions. 3 companies have applied for generic versions of Ozempic. So we'll be shooting it up on the air here soon, I think. Well, you won't have to, but I will. I'll be sticking it in every year I can.
Yeah, so we sometimes talk about Rethink X, which is Tony Seba's think tank, and he's often putting out prognostications for what is the next industry to get disrupted. And according to Tony Seba, Ozempic is kind of just the first wave of these types of drugs, and people are going to be able to adjust all sorts of things in their lives in the future based on these drugs. So, it seems too good to be true. I mean, there must be side effects of Ozempic, but
I've been on Ozempic briefly until I couldn't afford it. Not until I can accept crypto can I afford Ozempic. But anyway, I'll have to work that out. My team that works with me for my bariatric clinic, they are pushing it. They say, there's Parkinson's side effects, that it's lowering the risk of Parkinson's and dementia and a long list of other things, and they're discovering more every day. It's not to say that we won't find that it'll kill you too of long-term use, because we don't know what the long-term use is, but you do have to stay on it for life.
But like many things in clean energy, like we're often talking about how, battery chemistry, we're in the first or second stage of development, while we're in the first or second stage of the development of these GLP-1s. So, they're going to get better and be able to do more things.
And so are the vaccines that were used for COVID-19, because, they're looking at cancer treatments and all kinds of things for those things. And also there were some studies in the news recently about the COVID vaccines also had knockdown effects of other good things happening with heart disease and dementia. So go get your COVID shot, I guess. These are real studies, large scale studies, because there was a lot of people who took the vaccines. Norway, 98.6% EV share now. So basically, they had a goal of getting to 100%. There were only 31 new petrol vehicles sold in the entire country last month. 31.
Wow.
I'd like to meet those
31.
people. I'd like to meet those radical people.
And their whole fleet was something like 50% electric now. So that's the next
and increasing every
stage is to, replace the entire fleet. But 98.6% new car sales in Norway are electric.
All right. And finally, this week, the International Energy Agency chief says the fossil fuel era won't recover after the current global oil shock due to Iran. The global oil crisis triggered by escalating geopolitical tensions has fundamentally altered the future of fossil fuels, with the world unlikely to return to previous energy norms, according to the head of the International Energy Agency. In an interview with The Guardian, IEA Executive Director Faith Burrell in an interview with In an interview with The Guardian, IEA Executive Director Fatih Birol delivered a stark assessment. The shock to global energy systems is not temporary, but structural, marking a turning point in how countries perceive oil and gas. And this will not go back, he predicts.
Perception is 9/10 of the law. Is that a thing? Is that a thing people say?
No, it's not, but it should be.
Okay. All right, that's it for this week. You can find us on social media like TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky as Clean Energy Pod. The email again, cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. And remember to hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening to this podcast, and you will get new episodes every single week.
And thank you to our Patreon Clean Club executive members, Green Bastard, Brent Routley, and Tiernan, who get a shout out every week for their generosity. Join our Patreon Clean Club today at patreon.com/cleanenergypod to get your access to monthly bonus podcasts like the one that just dropped. This month's Patreon bonus episode has everything: robotaxis, Swiss trains, prairie crime stories, hydrogen submarines, weird Quebec TV adaptations, and more. And if you listen to that episode, we were talking about The Simpsons has its own version for Quebec, French-speaking Canada province, and they were going to block that. Well, the news is, the update is, it's coming back. The Simpsons announced yesterday.
Yeah, they were going to stop doing the Quebec version, but now they're going to do it again.
Okay, so thanks everyone for supporting the podcast. We'll see you again for a new one in 7 days.
See you next week.